Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about a serious topic: cortisol imbalances, adrenal dysfunction, and cortisol insufficiency. My name is Diego Reyes, functional health coach, functional nutritionist, owner of Complete Vitality Functional Health Coaching Organization. We are a functional health coaching program that helps men and women just like you get back their life, lose the stubborn body fat, heal their gut, balance their hormones, and reverse their chronic health condition, taking a root cause functional nutrition approach. Now, in this video, I want to talk about cortisol issues and adrenal dysfunction. And it is the root cause to many issues that we see today in our high stress, workaholic US environment. And by understanding what the detrimental effects that cortisol imbalances have on our health, we can take proactive, preventative steps for us to help reverse our chronic health issue and actually lose the weight and keep it off long term. Now, I've helped many individuals get to the root cause, whether it be Hashimoto's, hypothyroidism, PCOS, IBD, IBS, or whatever. And at the root of many of these issues is stress and inflammation. Now, remember though, we want to think about stress can be many things. You overthinking on things that even haven't happened yet is a form of a stress. You overtraining is a form of a stress. You having anxiety is stress. You not sleeping right, stress. You eating a processed food diet is all stress. So we need to understand that, stress can come in many forms, and stress is not bad, okay? Stress is good because it helps upregulate our immune system, it helps with the digestive process, and it also helps with building lean muscle tissue, burning fat tissue, okay? So stress is good, but it's only when it becomes chronic that it becomes an issue. And today we're going to talk about that. So, first of all, we got to understand about what the stress response is, what adrenal dysfunction is. So let's first talk about the anatomy and physiology of stress. So when our body senses a stress, okay, remember stress comes in many forms, whether it be I'm overtraining, under eating, our body interprets that. So what happens is our brain, we have something called the hypothalamus. You may have heard of this. Okay, our hypothalamus signals something called CRH, corticotropin releasing hormone. Okay, so our hypothalamus signals to our pituitary gland. Okay, then our pituitary gland releases something called ACTH, adrenocorticotropin releasing hormone. It signals to our adrenal glands, which are located on top of our kidneys. Okay, our adrenal glands then produces cortisol, okay, the stress hormone, epinephrine, and norepinephrine. I'm just butchering those, but it releases those, but mainly cortisol. And what we should understand is that it releases cortisol, and your body turns on what's called the sympathetic dominant state. So your nervous system, that's your central nervous system, that's a part of your autonomic nervous system, okay, signals that fight or flight response. Okay, now we got the anatomy and physiology out of the way. But what actually happens when this process gets prolonged? Because many issues today are stemmed back to stress response. So hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's. Now this is all from chronic exposure to stress. Okay, so first thing we want to identify is that your body has stages of adrenal dysfunction. And what I mean by that is that there's stages that your adrenal glands go through to get to that chronic health condition that you're experiencing. So what I mean by that is that you have stage 1 through 4 of adrenal dysfunction. Okay, so stage 1 is where you're feeling good. You respond good to the stresses. They create pro-adaptive responses. You have a healthy immune system. You have a healthy gut. You have a healthy thyroid. You have healthy hormones. Okay, but then you get into that next stage where it's more so you're wired and tired. You're always on go mode. Okay, and then stage 3 is more so where you're thinking of it's more so where you have that anxiety and you start to plummet. Going into the final stage where it's stage 4, where you're absolutely tanked. You have zero cortisol. You always feel tired no matter how much sleep you get, no matter how much caffeine you're drinking. And that's probably you right now. You're always tired, and to top it all off, you deal with stubborn body fat. Now, if that sounds like you, then adrenal dysfunction, cortisol imbalances is at the core. And so, when we look at the functional root cause approach, we have to understand that all things play together. So yes, you could be dealing with cortisol imbalances such as low cortisol, but that can also hinder your gut function. So now you have trouble in the gut. So we don't want to just focus on our cortisol, and we don't just want to focus on our gut. We want to focus on everything together because it all works in unison. Your body works in unison. Okay, so going back to what we're saying, many individuals at the root is cortisol imbalances. So what happens is that when we continue to keep, producing cortisol, it gets into our bloodstream, whatever, and our body's always on go mode, fight or flight, it will start to downregulate other systems, your sex hormones especially. So in females, it will hinder your cycle. In a majority of time, it will cause amenorrhea, hypothalamic amenorrhea, meaning it's going to mess up your cycle, making you have an absent period. It can also produce more androgens as a female, leading to PCOS. That's why there's a version of adrenal PCOS. It can also lead to lower progesterone levels, which then hinder, obviously, your cycle, but actually your vitality, especially as a female. So we want to look at that. And then as a male, it obviously causes low testosterone and all those things. So we want to look at stress is good, but when it's in abundance, that's when the issues start to occur. Another thing that stress does in high amounts is cause slow digestive secretion for your gut. So what I mean by that is your gut starts to produce less stomach acid. That less stomach acid contributes to acid reflux, GERD, and poor digestion and assimilation of nutrients. Okay, so that also happens. But then another thing that stress does is cause leaky gut. And what I mean by that is that when we continue to stress, our intestinal lining, our intestinal walls inside of our gut begin to become permeable. They begin to split. And when they begin to split, toxins, undigested food, bad bacteria can flow into our bloodstream, which then now, since it's done that, it can activate our immune system. Then the immune system becomes overactive and we get an autoimmune condition. Do you see how this all can, manifest into different issues? Another thing to address is that stress could also come from trauma. So if you think about it, you had a lot of trauma, whether it be unaddressed or anything, that can manifest into gut issues that then break down the gut lining, that then contributes to immune system activation, and then contributes to an autoimmune condition like Hashimoto's. Now Hashimoto's is attacking your thyroid gland, but since your doctor is not addressing a full thyroid panel like your antibodies and they're just looking at TSH, it's not till about 90% of the thyroid gland is taking a hit that you actually get the hypothyroid issue. And it's not till you actually go see, or run a full thyroid panel that you actually know you have Hashimoto. So it's just a big game that everyone's playing out there. So, nonetheless though, remember, I'm coming from someone who does this on a day-to-day basis, getting people back their lives. So understand this. Cortisol can wreak havoc on sex hormones, your thyroid gland, your gut, so much more. So with that being said, there's stages of adrenal dysfunction, which I've talked about before. So what can you actually do about this? So let's get into some things that you can do. So a number one thing under the supervision of a healthcare professional, whatever, is getting perhaps a cortisol, test done. My favorite, especially with the amount of females that come into my program, I'm using a Dutch hormone test because I'm going to measure a 24-hour cortisol test. Okay, so what that means is that your body has a natural cortisol rhythm. Okay, that's just that goes on a day-to-day basis. Okay, so you have something called CAR, which is your cortisol awakening response, and that happens in the morning. So you want to think about it in the morning, your cortisol spikes, and then as the day goes, it starts to slow down for your body then to secrete melatonin for you to obviously get into sleep. And produce GH, growth hormone, and so much more. But with that being said, a lot of individuals either have too low of cortisol, where they wake up and they have no cortisol at all, or they wake up and they stay elevated throughout the day, or what this happens a lot is that they wake up with low cortisol, and then as the day goes, their cortisol is so imbalanced that it jacks up in the evening. So now you're wired and tired, you have all this energy in the evening, and you can't get going in the morning. So no matter what's going on, it's vital for you to actually get a test done to actually check where your cortisol is at. Now, a lot of cortisol testing can be expensive. So if you are dealing with that expense issue, what I suggest is focus on obviously doing the best in the evening time. Yes, no matter if you have low or high cortisol, getting your cortisol, down in the evening will inevitably help no matter what issue you're having. Because let's say you're having imbalances in cortisol issues, like you're having it too high in the evening. that's going to inevitably help with the, your ability to, manage that melatonin production release, essentially. So with that being said, though, if you are a female with high cortisol levels, that will, like I said, lower your progesterone. It will increase your androgens and DHEA. Okay, all these things can contribute to PCOS. That thing can contribute to male characteristics like oily skin, maybe facial hair, and those type of things. So getting a lab test done, like a Dutch hormone test, is great because you also measure androgens, measure your estrogens. Just looking at cortisol through a blood test can be, useful at times, but more so, like a Dutch, or so there's something called a ZRT saliva blood test that you can get, or saliva test that you can get for measuring your cortisol levels. Now, so let's get into some more things that you can do to help with your cortisol imbalances. So number one is to learn to say no. Yeah, so if we actually focus on ourselves at times and we say no to things that are not a hell yes, that's going to help us with lowering our cortisol since we're not always on go, go, go. Okay, next is we want to eat a nutrient-dense diet. Okay, so something to mention is that your high stress lifestyle, high cortisol depletes specific nutrients like your B vitamins, zinc, and those type of things, which all can contribute to nutrient deficiencies that can cause other chronic health issues. So making sure that we eat a nutrient-dense diet that is filled with all types of nutrients coming from, organic, grass-fed, grass-finished beef, or going from poultry, and different types of fruits, vegetables, and then good grains, those type of things. So next is therapy if you need it. Talking with someone, even if it's not a professional, talking with either a friend or a spouse about something is going to dramatically help. Another thing to help with your cortisol imbalances is to get your sleep correct. So like I've mentioned, that is the number one thing that you can do to get your cortisol and lower your stress on your day-to-day life is to get more sleep. Get an hour or more sleep this week, okay? Try it. Next is to, like I said, use the right testing, but you can also use adaptogenic herbs. Adaptogenic herbs can come from Ayurvedic medicine, okay? And these adaptogenic herbs help with lowering and helping our body cope with the stressors of everyday life. I personally use tons of adaptogenic herbs to be fully transparent with, running a business, intensive workouts, meetings, and all those things. So I like to use things like rhodiola rosea. I like to use things like ashwagandha. I really like L-theanine. I really like something called Subroxy, and there's some other ones that I like to use, Panic Ginseng, Bacopa Monnieri, and those type really help, L-tyrosine, really help with lowering and helping your body cope with those stressors. They also help promote better sleep. My favorite is magnolia bark or apigenin. Or these two herbs, magnolia bark, apigenin, are really good for helping promote your sleep. Now, nonetheless though, what are some other things? Detoxing from social media. Social media, looking at our phones, scrolling all day, signals dopamine in our brain. This is why we are so dopamine depleted, because we are just getting dopamine hits all day. Even if you don't think you're getting that hit, you just scrolling or you looking at things depletes your body from dopamine and obviously increases your stress. Next is to fill your body up with the good supplements, nutrients needed for stress response. So B vitamins, magnesium glycinate. I suggest everyone is on magnesium. You cannot get enough on your diet, okay? But magnesium dramatically helps with sleep and so many other biological functions, I believe over 300. And so understanding that. Vitamin C, perfect. Omega-3s, focusing on either a high-quality fish oil or salmon or those type of things to help with reducing the inflammation that can be caused by the high stress. Another one is vitamin D, really helps. Zinc and reishi mushroom. Okay, so remember, all these things can contribute to the stress response. So if you're looking to get to the root cause, finally figure out what's going on with your issues and get back your life and vitality, then message me. Check out my website, completevitality.com, completevitalitylife.com, or check out any of my other YouTube videos, or check out my Instagram, Diego Reyes Health, all lowercase, Diego Reyes Health, and find out more health tips, get to the root cause of your chronic health condition, reverse your autoimmune condition, whatever it may be. All right. We're going to have a promotion, free functional lab testing. Message me, root cause. Hope you have a blessed day.